A great welcome back from that commercial break. Like I said, the business edition is still continuing. Now, getting to the story here, I saw the government through the office of the Prime Minister is now enforcing what we call agro-industrialization. Agro-industrialization is very important when it comes to socio-economic development of any country, Uganda inclusive. Now, they're going to talk about the value addition, productivity, of course, agricultural productivity. So all this is under agro-industrialization. Now the Office of Prime Minister has started enforcing this countrywide. Let's have a look at this very story.
With agriculture supporting over 70% of the country's population, government has embarked on a national agro-industrial revamp initiative starting from central Uganda, focused on maximum production, quality output, and ultimately value addition to realize the much-needed import substitution strategy. According to the Prime Minister, Robin Anabanja, the industrial campaign, driven from the President's directive, intends to address market challenges faced by both small and large-scale farmers based on 6 key areas.
We need to pursue and develop our agriculture sector. And these include production, multiplication, distribution, certification of seeds, and stocking materials. That is 1. 2, disease control. Pests and disease control. Agricultural mechanization and irrigation. Farmer education and mobilization. Partnerships with big landowners.
Mechanized agriculture is one of the key components in the policy proposals to address agro-deficits. The Agriculture Ministry, part of the Implementation Pact, informs about its move to equip all the 18 mechanization zones with just 5 currently outstanding. A stock of heavy machinery is to be availed and a low-bed facility to link out-of-reach areas.
That these centers will be only for heavy equipment. And His Excellency the President went to the greater lengths of telling us that we should have low bed for those heavy equipment. We are talking about combined harvester, where it's applicable. We are talking about machine for land clearing. We are talking about excavators. But for the tractors, we are going to ensure that every sub-county has a tractor. Yes. But for the heavy equipment, we have been directed to have a low bed to transport the heavy equipment to a further sub-county of the sub-region and then return it.
In quest for value addition, a long-time gospel in Uganda's import substitution drive, Harriet Ntabazi, the Minister for Trade, confirms that UDC and UDB will assist through a finance facility to farmers. Similarly, investor mobilization is underway to attain full domestic raw material usage.
We want to assure you all the equipment under UDC, under UDB, money has been released in the budget. We are going to holistically handle this as a holistic project. And Kenya is adding value and again importing back the animal feeds, chicken feeds, and again we buy. So we are saying no, this must end. We must use our own raw material to add value on, and then we be the ones to export. So we are in plans and high gears, together with the Minister of Agriculture, because of the other challenge that we got with the Kenyan border, and now the South Sudan border. We have laid strategies, serious ones, to make sure that the competitors who are using our own products to fight us, stop it.
With the Agriculture Ministry tasked to create an administrative authority as oversight on the agro-inputs market, quality assurance seems a likely reality as export ban on products such as milk and maize, for instance, inhibits regional trade.
We had the Minister of Agriculture saying the government authorizes them to form an authority which is going to put emphasis on emphasizing on the quality assurance of the products. Why? Farmers have been cheated but it's the right time. I think the government has come up, because I've been seeing different authorities, like we have Uganda Coffee Development Authority. I think it's the right time this has come out, because even though you are in coffee, let's say, you have to know, they have to give you the right fertilizer so that you use it and you gain from what you do. So it's a right way, the government, and it's the best decision the government has done.
Despite the agro-revamp campaign running on an unspecified budget, government's commitment on sector reform remains intact as key agro-production sectors are upheld to enforce import substitution.
So let's hope this campaign that is going to come from the office of the Prime Minister to enforce agro-industrialization is going to help this country when it comes to socio-economic development of this very country. Now getting to another story here, of course, over the week we had a couple of MPs who traveled to Brussels in the meeting there. Of course, the members have been having issues concerning LGBTQ law. Remember, we signed this law. Now it's a law here in the country, so we've been getting a lot of threats from the US saying that they are going to cut aids. They're going to stop giving us money just because we signed that law. So when our MPs went there, they had to protest. They're saying no, it shouldn't be like that. So our North Korea MP Opio was on ground making headlines over the weekend saying this is not the time the US or the Western countries should impose sanctions on us, because also this thing called homosexuality has been having a lot of effects on our children here. Let's have a look at what happened in Brussels in that very assembly. Parliamentarians from Uganda who are in Brussels, Belgium, for the current European Union Assembly have protested threats by foreign powers on developing countries following the adoption of anti-LGBTQ+ law. In his speech to the Assembly, the Kole North MP Samuel Opio referred to the recent resolution of the European Parliament on the Uganda's anti-homosexuality law as a violation on the country's sovereignty status, adding that such threats must be stopped because they will have harm on the business partnerships.
However, I want to talk about the political, the economic and the financial aspect. The EU Parliament on 20th April adopted a joint resolution on the universal decriminalization of homosexuality in light of the recent developments in Uganda. Among their resolutions, it was condemned on the passing of the anti-homosexuality bill, and they called for sanctions on all the members of parliament, the religious leaders, and the politicians who supported the enactment of that bill. Isn't that a hybrid threat, undermining the sovereignty of a country and also destabilizing the culture of the society itself? An attack on those Ugandan MPs for supporting the bill is an attack on the Uganda people who elected them through the democratic dispensation processes.
The European Union parliamentary resolution called upon the EU Commission to consider withdrawing everything but arms periphery schemes, which would reinstate tariffs and quotas for Uganda goods being exported to the European Union, limiting market access. The resolution also asked for the precondition for countries to decriminalize homosexuality in order to qualify for the tariff waivers. According to Opio, this is another hybrid threat in the form of economic pressure, economic blackmail intended to cause economic collapse.
The resolution also called upon the EU Commission to consider withdrawing the everything but arms preference schemes, which will reinstate tariffs and quotas for Ugandan goods being exported to the EU, limiting market access. And it further asked for preconditions for countries to decriminalize homosexuality in order to qualify for the tariff waivers. Isn't this another form of hybrid threats in form of economic pressure, economic blackmail for cultural orientation? African values are not for sale, whether at wholesale price, factory price, or retail price.
But the President is clarifying all those issues. These are risks that we can't just leave out there, and they are not sitting in the risk of energy costs. That resolution of a transmission line will remove that risk, but it's a major risk. What's the state of our health care? A lot of people are concerned about when my employee falls sick in Uganda. What is the nature of your health care? Where do they go? What is the nature of our education? Because some of them are in the age of bringing their children here.
They noted that while the European Union remains Africa's largest trading partner with about 26% of all imports, trade between blocs suffers from misalignment of trade policy priorities. Fred Muhomuza, an economist, says that it's time the government of Uganda revisits its expenditure for self-sustainability because some of the foreign funders are withdrawing.
We just passed the law against LGBTQ, and we have seen some other people get concerned. We are glad that the president is engaging and trying to clarify the uncertainties that people have, because some of them are withdrawing their staff. Some of them are saying, I can't bring my staff, because out there their staff are gay. Their staff are lesbians. So they're saying, how do I take my staff to work in a country where they can be arrested?
MPs urged the European Assembly to consider widening the scope of human rights, to consider human economic rights, fair value and fair trading, adding that human rights without improved economic well-being is an incomplete story. Yeah, those are MPs who happened to attend that assembly in Brussels, protesting what they called unfair sanctions and the disrespect of our country's sovereignty. Now let's get to another story here. The Islamic banking already has been approved in the country, and of course Muslims have a reason to laugh. Parliament finally passed the Financial Institutions Amendment Bill 2023, which reconciled Islamic banking into a financial institution law. Still, it went ahead to synchronize the Islamic financial system recently made taxes. So of course, this Islamic banking is now back in the country. Now we can start putting this into the system. Let's have a look at this very story.
Member, what he has submitted.
Before tabling the bills on the floor of Parliament, the Committee of Finance first interfaced with officials from Bank of Uganda over the issue of establishing a Central Sharia Advisory Council at Bank of Uganda as required by the Islamic banking principles. Bank of Uganda advised the committee that from their benchmark studies they got to learn that in over 50 Muslim countries, only 13 have an advisory council, and so Uganda can start without it.
That Uganda as a member of the EAC is moving towards an EAC monetary union, okay? We actually are even trying to converge in terms of how we regulate our banking sectors so there's equal treatment across the region. So if others within the region that we intend to partner with as have one monetary union don't have them, I think as a starting point, let us not have this advisory council, at the beginning. And like I indicated in my presentation, there is no harm if after 4 or 5 years, let's give this a chance to happen. It's like, for an analogy, consider a case of a child who's been born and is crawling and is walking. When the child starts crawling, you do not train them to run a marathon. You give them a chance to learn how to walk.
When the bills came to the floor of Parliament, the issue of creating a Sharia Advisory Council created a controversy among legislators, with some supporting the council and others opposing it. The Speaker guided that since Bank of Uganda is just a regulatory body, the commercial banks can create their Sharia law advisory committees.
We will never, as long as our law remains as it is, legislate in that way and make the Bank of Uganda create a product. Imagine if Bank of Uganda creates a product and the people lose money, whom will you blame? We will never. Secondly, we don't do that for conventional banking. So if we don't do that, because Bank of Uganda does not approve products for the other type of banking, which is not Islamic, won't we be discriminating?
That the law exists. We want to amend it and delete it. That's the intention of this provision. Now, Bank of Uganda appeared before the committee, Right Honorable Chair. You are speaking about a product that is unique in its nature. It's based on Sharia law. And because it's based on Sharia law, it has peculiar interpretations that in the ordinary conventional banking normal practices are not regularly found. Therefore, the framers of the law then had created just advisory, not for advisory council, and this is its composition. The chair of that advisory council is the Governor, Bank of Uganda. The secretary to it is the Secretary for Legal Department. Supervision of bank is the member of that board. And 2 Islamic scholars to advise on the products called Islamic financing. On the face of it, it is harmful. It's not harmful. Now, what the committee has done, and the governor, the central bank, when it appeared before, it did not say that forever that advisory board will never be needed. Now, what we've done as a committee is, 1, put this provision in abeyance. Because if the minister feels he doesn't want to implement it, forever he will never implement it. But if a need arises, there will not be a need to come back to Parliament to amend and reinsert the same provision. We removed the other one. Yeah.
We have one board in Bank of Uganda. We have boards in the commercial banks. Now I'm talking as a former banker for 15 years. We have boards in commercial banks. In the commercial banks that we have, this Islamic banking service is going to be one of the services, one of the products. Yes, we need to understand this thing, not just putting a perspective that, you know, we need to be managed by the central bank. Central bank is a regulator. Commercial banks do operational.
Speaker Mong also warned all those who have been lobbied to frustrate the introduction of Islamic banking into the financial laws of Uganda.
A Islamic banking service is like any other service. Just like you have agricultural banking service, you have a number of them. Are we going to have the central bank have all those boards? Are we going to have them? Why are you frustrating? And I don't want people who are frustrating Islamic banking. I know people have been lobbied. I want to put this on record. People have been lobbied not to allow this Islamic banking go through, including myself. But we must pass it.
The House resolved to pass the financial bills synchronizing Islamic banking system as part of Uganda's financial system. The passing of Islamic banking into the financial banking system of Uganda gives hope to many Ugandans, especially those from the Muslim community who have appealed to government to introduce it for long. The bill only awaits the President's approval for commercial banks to start embracing it.
That being said, now we'll be going in for a short commercial break, and when we come back, business edition is still continuing. Stay around. Welcome back from that short commercial break. Let's now rush to Kabale district, where Kabalega International Airport is near completion, but it has suffered a lot of delay. Now, the completion of the 1.2 trillion shillings Kabalega International Airport, formerly known as Kabale International Airport in Hoima district, has suffered delays and currently at 91% completion, pending handover in October. Our reporter, Ronan Hawe, was on top of this, the completion of the Kabalega International Airport, and let us have a look at what she had to compile for us.
In a recent cabinet decision, Kabale International Airport was renamed Kabalega in honor to Omkama Kabalega, as requested by the people of Bunyoro. The development of the Kabalega International Airport, undertaken by SBC Uganda Limited in a joint venture with SBI International Holdings AG, commenced on 18th April 2018, funded by the United Kingdom Exports Finance at 85% and 15% by the Government of Uganda. Amos Bulisa, the Public Relations Officer of SBC Uganda Limited, the contractors of the Kabalega International Airport, says it was supposed to be completed early in February, but disruptions by torrential rains and COVID-19 affected the progress, especially with limited deployment of 25 people in observation of social distance, and have been given more 8 months to complete the work and deliver the airport. Currently, the construction works stand at 91%.
We should have delivered this project by February 2023. But as usual in construction industry, there are natural claims. When say it rains, you cannot touch the ground. So at the time when you have not finished the project, you have to claim that time. Again, the other time, you remember when COVID came in, we had to reduce on the number of workers. In an area we used to deploy 50 workers, we had to start deploying 25 workers. This also affected our site progress. So we now claim the certain period that was lost during COVID, and we are given an extra period of 8 months. So we are expected to deliver the project in end of September or early October this year.
Workers had previously laid down tools due to lack of payment, prompting the contractor to halt construction work as government failed to allocate more than 126 billion shillings required for completion. Petroleum Authority's Gloria Sebikali says oil and gas resources are finite and the airport will help boost exports through sector linkages like agriculture and tourism.
We had to initiate a negotiation. The experts picked the data from all the sources like Bureau of Statistics, because changes like in a month, every time and again the prices change, but the data is there. So that is the money we had to go on table with the expertise, the government officials in the Ministry of Works, and we agreed on a certain amount, and that amount was paid, and then the work commenced. But the amount that was agreed on was paid, and the work again resumed. We are working normally without any other interruption.
We look at expanding the airport maybe during the second phase to handle passengers. That is another benefit that comes to the country, and I think that will also decongest the main city so that we don't have everyone flying into the country using Entebbe. So I think as a country, infrastructure is the bedrock for development, and when you have durable infrastructure, it supports development across the different sectors of the economy, and that's very important because we know oil and gas is a finite resource, meaning that oil and gas resources after some time may get exhausted. But if you have infrastructure that's boosting the other productive sectors, tourism, agriculture, manufacturing, and supporting industrialization, then you're increasing the potential to increase the GDP of the country.
As per the refinery to be premised within Kabalega Industrial Park, delivery is set for 2027 or 2028, and Sarah Banage, the lead corporate affairs at UNOX, stresses the significance of the petrochemicals industry.
You are definitely going to get byproducts from the refining of crude. In fact, some countries don't even have the crude. All they do is they set up a refinery, because from the refinery, the byproducts that come out, the petrochemicals that come out, lead to a number of petrochemical industries. These industries is your everyday. Does any of you, are you wearing rubber shoes? Are you wearing rubber on your shoes? That kind of rubber, the rubber we use, the tires, the paint in your homes, the inputs into your paint. So when you wake up in the morning and your plastic alarm goes off, you're already talking petrochemical industries. The things that come out from refining crude and then the outputs of that all go into making the petrochemicals.
The cargo terminal building, limited capacity passenger, which will be receiving 50 passengers at peak per hour, and air-ground lighting system, among other infrastructure, are between 89 to 90% complete. The runway, measuring 3.5 kilometers long and 45 meters wide, is 99% complete.
That's about the Kabalega International Airport over there. We've been having issues of using air transport domestically here. I was told one time that even in Southern Sudan, people use aeroplanes to go for barriers. Why not in Uganda here? So of course, if you have that completion of Kabalega International Airport, we also go to Kasese Airport, we also go to even to other districts who are having airports. Of course, we'll be improving domestic air transport in the country, and of course, Civil Aviation Authority will be making a lot of revenues, which revenue will contribute to the socio-economic development or to the country's GDP of Uganda. Now getting to another story. I can't leave here without talking about the Eid al-Adha and what happened during that day. According to information, we heard that the meat industry sustained low demand that very day. So they say that the meat and beef industry sustained a decline in demand and supply of animals during the Feast of the Sacrifice. They say the city abattoir, about 700 cows were slaughtered, just below the 1,000 anticipated cows that we normally that we normally eat that very day. Our reporter Naomi Mutumbo was on top of this story during Eid al-Adha. Let us see what she compiled for us on that very day.
In a surprising turn of events, the city abattoir at Old Port Bell Road has reported a drop in the number of cows slaughtered compared to the previous year. The annual figures reveal that only 400 to 700 cows have been slaughtered, a sharp contrast to the higher numbers witnessed in recent times. The decline in numbers has left meat sector industrialists disoriented, as the abattoir has historically been a crucial hub for meat production, supplying local markets and businesses.
You know, we expected people to buy a lot, but I think our economy is not doing well. Actually, I think even the donors, because we normally get donors from Turkey, we get donors from those Islamic countries. I think what happened in Turkey has affected. Remember, we had a very serious earthquake in Turkey. That one, I think it has affected the donors.
Well, the situation has not been all that good or bad, because first we expected more cows to be here, and the turn-up was a bit low, and the price of meat has a bit risen up. Peacefully, we've tried to move around with the situation.
Livestock traders have been facing significant difficulties, which are impeding market operations. One primary concern raised is the high cost of fuel, which directly impacts the transportation of animals. With fuel prices reaching unprecedented levels, businesses that heavily rely on transport are caught up as profit margins shrink.
Rise in hikes in prices of fuel, for example. So majorly where the vehicle used to use, like for example 500,000, and you find that it takes 800 big trucks, like 1 million. So they will increase on the cost of each animal, given where it comes from. For example, an animal from Barara to Kampala, they charge 100,000. So from Mulubale or Isingiro, they charge 130 to 120 per each animal, which translates into the high prices of meat.
Today, the situation has not really changed. It's like it's not an easy day. On normal days, we slaughter around 200 cows, but we expected to slaughter 400 cows. Yet in the previous years, we would slaughter over 1,000 cows. But because of the scars of the COVID-19, Ugandans no longer have money, so they don't buy meat, yet we have not increased the price that much.
The price of a goat has risen from 200,000 to 300,000 Ugandan shillings, while cows now cost between 1.5 and 1.7 million Ugandan shillings. The price hike is due to several underlying factors, primarily the outbreak of foot and mouth disease and ongoing drought conditions in the cattle corridor in districts like Kazo that have been quarantined in the last 2 years.
12,000, because 12,000, 13 there. We in other usual days we sell like 11,000 per kilo.
This is another year. There has been an increment in prices of cows and goats and sheep that are always slaughtered in big numbers. As you may be well aware, This Eid is where they slaughter a lot of animals. Majorly those rich Muslims, they slaughter animals and give meat to the most vulnerable people, yeah, in terms of offerings.
The situation is really bad because we expected traders to come and buy. But as you can see, the meat is still on the stalls. We expected to sell the meat at 13,000, but those coming in want to buy the meat at 10,000. And this is because the Muslim community slaughtered their own cows, goats and sheep, so businesses are stuck.
As the Muslim community celebrates Eid al-Adha, around 400 to 700 cows have been slaughtered within the city abattoir compared to the previous year, indicating a shortage in the supply of meat in Uganda.
Okay, these are some of the stories that have made the headlines in your business edition tonight. And remember to get us on all our social media platforms. You can get Smart24 TV on Twitter and Smart24 TV on YouTube. Just put Smart24 TV live. You'll be getting us live and clear. Let's meet again next Sunday on the same program, the business edition. My name is Pedison Mumbere.